Johnny had been asking me to do that stupid
John
stuff.
Laurinaitis, Johnny Ace.
For some time. And they knew I couldn't even put my belt on. So I said, I don't feel comfortable even jumping off a rope right now to even to give an axe handle. And I just don't want to do it. So the night of the pay-per-view in Indianapolis, he had it written into the script. And why it was so important, because once I did that, then they were going to pan back to the mystery partner, who we know wasn't going to be on my side. Mm-hmm. We knew the finish was his brother. Mm-hmm. And then as they come back, I think at that point they were supposed to have me down, getting their heat on me. He was to showed up and then not save the day, or whatever the case was. I just, I could have, only thing I could say is I could have, and I even at one point that evening said, hey man, I want you to change this. I don't want to do it. And, for several years, man, it was a big regret for me. I'm telling you something. You're talking about 6 fucking years of rehab to get where I'm at today. It never a day of it didn't go back to me. I think about that. Wow. A little animosity, not towards Johnny, really to myself. Nothing against Johnny. Johnny's not a genius either. He's got a good mind for the business. But me jumping off, giving Scott Steiner a knee to the head is not going to fucking, use my language, not do anything other than get me hurt. And that wasn't going to make that big of a deal. That's what really bothered me about the whole thing.
When you originally hurt your leg, did you think, just like all the other injuries, you could recover from it in 6 months or something?
Oh yeah. Now when I was in the hospital that night, I never saw it. I never looked at it. Never seen the clip. Never want to. Those doctors looked at me and I could tell by their eyes something was wrong. Even when I went home and started doing my referral work, I didn't really know more about this injury until, really, believe it or not, that horse Barbaro.
Yes.
All right. What happens is when you have a compound fracture that far away, there's no muscle tissue. So it's the hardest way for anything to rehab. And that's why it was so hard, and that's why it's been such a long process. And I was never predicted ever to walk or run again.
Wow.
I'm doing all that now. So that's why I'm a little biting at the bit now, because now I'm ready. And I'm ready to get back, and I want to finish my career not being carted out on a stretcher. And I always wanted to finish my career working in the WWE. That's where I could have the most fun and most, not so much the most fun, but the most, I could really be.
You make the biggest impact.
Well, then I could get my self-gratification by drawing money, and that's, I know it sounds cliche, but that's my most important thing for me. If I'm drawing money, I'm making money.
Right.
Making money, not drawing money, is not that much fun. I've done it, worked for WCW. You just go through the motions, but when you're drawing money, you're working hard and it's just, you don't feel aches and pains, it's so well worth it.
Yeah. As far as the clip, people compare it to Joe Theismann when Joe Theismann broke his leg, and it's just, it's an infamous clip. People, watch it to this day.
Well, I believe too that just between you and me,
sure,
that just coming back from that's going to be the biggest medical comeback in the history of any sport. Just for me to come back from that alone, not saying changing my identity, that might help too.
Yeah.
But coming back from that is going to make, that'll be a hell of a deal.
Definitely. People love comebacks.
Exactly. And man, this has got a heck of a story, man. You got to realize, 1 month after that surgery, I was in the gym on a walker, okay, doing power cleans on one leg. I got people at the gym that still remind me, how was you doing that? Walking downstairs on a walker, only allowed to put 7 pounds of pressure on this leg, So I did that, and then, running into that wall every day, it was tough.
Yeah.
Now I ran through that wall, so that's been really upside for me.
I was going to ask you, mentally, how at your lowest point, recovering from leg injury, how down did you get?
Man, I'm going to tell you something. It really put a strain on everything in my life. Because at first I was hitting the wall, but it wasn't affecting me. I said, okay, I know what I'm doing. The doctors weren't really giving me a lot of telling me what was going on either. Finally had one doctor tell me, he said, you're not going to really ever walk again. Man, from that point on, it was pretty scary. So I had to work harder and harder. I'd work out in the morning, then I'd go to rehab for 3.5 to 4 hours a day. Every day for years I did this. So depression, I never dealt with depression before. I had to deal with that. I didn't even know I was dealing with depression. I don't have anything to be depressed about. It's one of those things that sneak up on you. You don't even realize it's hitting you until it's too late. Caused me a lot of problems with my family. I'm just now able to make up to my family the the way I was acting. And I didn't even know why I was acting like that. Had to go through a anger management course because I was so angry at the whole world. I wasn't blaming anybody for anything, but boy, I was just, and I use anger as a tool for me too, to succeed sometimes. Like whatever's going on, I'm going to work. I'm so damn mad. I'm going to work out 3 times today. I'm going to run bleachers twice. So that would push me into making me do better. This time, anger didn't work for me. It just made a hole deeper and deeper.
That's exactly what you said in the last interview, was how anger motivated you to run more bleachers, and because you're recovering from injury, when we did our last interview and things like that. Right. You were saying the same exact thing.
Well, and it does. And I was running, I got a hill over Memphis. It's 110 yards up, a pretty steep angle. I run up to the top of it, I spit, and I step on it. I'm stepping on somebody. That's what I think in my mind. Okay. And that's what makes me get up that hill another time. And I can run bleachers for 60 minutes nonstop. It's just, I'm in such shape. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
And people see that too. And people, you realize back home, it takes anywhere from 3 to 4 people to work out with me in a week because they can't recover and they can't, work out with intensity. I mean, I don't be what's called an empty set. Every set's a failure.
Wow.
It's so intense, and that's why I'm in such great shape. Even if, with a disability, I had to work through it.
Yeah.
And now it's no longer a disability. It's actually been it's been a good thing for me.
Is it harder to stay in such top shape as you get older?
You know what? I would have thought so. I'm in better shape now than I was before I broke my leg.
Huh.
And that's what's so weird. And this is the time that I judge myself. I have 2 goals. One's long term, one's short term. The long term goal is to see how many pounds of lean muscle mass I can put on in each year. And this is the time that I lean down. That's why I'm a little lean right now. From 305 to around 280 now. I was down to 270, but I'm coming back up a little bit. I see how many pounds of lean muscle mass I can put on in 1 year. Then my short-term goal is to see how many days consecutively I can make it into the gym without missing. Like through November, December, January, I didn't miss a day. Wow. The gym opened up for me on the days off.
Wow.
So people don't know that about me either. I'm at my first workout at 5 o'clock. And then I'm back in there at 1 or whatever, and I'm in there for 3 hours at minimum.
Wow.
Each time.
Now, when you were recovering from your injury and you were at your lowest point, did you cut off contact, like not even talk to any of your friends anymore guys from the business?
I changed my phone number.
Wow.
I didn't want to ask that story. I didn't want to answer that story. I didn't want to answer any more questions about that anymore. On the other hand, there's been so many good people that, strangers. For instance, when I was going to the gym, I knew, for instance, I could walk. I could get out of my vehicle and I could walk so many steps before I had to sit down. There were people that were personally parking my vehicle for me, opening the doors for me, things like that. Hey, we're praying for you. Those were good things, or good parts of my life that kept me going.
Yeah.
The wrestling business side has a tendency to ask the same old nagging questions. If you're talking to one of the boys, especially, they're going to, how did it happen? Why did it happen? And just explaining it time and time again it seems like even today, I'm still answering it. But for 3 or 4 years, man, it was all day, every day.
Yeah.
I got tired.
And it makes a lot of sense what you say about wanting that last run to show people you don't want to go out like that, because there are a lot of people, kids that have never seen you wrestle before, but then they find your clip on YouTube or something like that.
That, and for me, I take a lot of pride in what I've done. I really maybe think too much of myself. Some people, we all think, maybe say things that make it sound like that. I think I had a really great career. I think that would be a horrible way to be remembered going out. And now I have so much more to offer. More mature. Those last few years in WCW, no one could have been more giving than I was. This whole idea about this thing now, this is why this can only be a win-win situation for Vince and myself. I'm coming in knowing what my job is, and that's to get over and draw money, and then after that, put people over. And not many people want to, end their career correctly.
Yeah.
By saying, okay, use me, put me on that slab, cut my head off, I'm finished. I'll do after that what you want me to do.
Was it a tough mental block to get over, stepping back into the wrestling ring and being in a position where your leg's vulnerable again?
Well, that's funny. As my first show back actually was a referee gig in Montreal for Jock and Carl Willett.
Okay.
Which I did feel awkward on that one. The next gig was I came to Montreal and did a pay-per-view for a company. It was like ECW in Montreal. I can't remember the name.
IWS, maybe?
IWS, something like that.
Yeah.
I worked a whole hour that night. We were in a tag team type of tournament. It really wasn't a tournament, but we did this whole deal. I did a little bit of this gig that I want to do for Vince and them about this guide character I've been talking about. And I used a midget. I used a cast of characters. Where I'm getting this theme from is from great conquerors in the world like Genghis Khan.
Okay.
And what they did after they conquered countries, they'd go into the castle and they would parade the queen, the king around and have a party. And when they got tired of that, they would cut their heads off. And I would say that in the interview. I'd go, hey, and God's took me to that. And I was sitting right next to Genghis Khan when this happened. But I worked that whole hour. Now, I'd set up all these things up with Carl. Carl being from Montreal. He just said, Sid, I just don't understand all this stuff. We had an hourglass and everybody had all these props and had the midget and the girls and blah, 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 blah. But when we got done with it, we got home that night and we were exhausted. And Carl looked at me and Carl, I have a great amount of respect for this guy. He's a great worker. He looked at me and he said, Sid, you're a genius. I mean, I do know what I'm doing. I know what works. I know how to make things work. And they don't always sound just like the deal with Flair. That chair didn't sound like that big of a deal, but it was. Mm-hmm. So these little things that were complex for Carl was so much to digest in a couple of days of going over it, which really just needs years to be done. We did it in one night, but it was a lot of fun. And that, to get back to your answer on that, but I did that whole hour and never thought about my leg.
Wow.
Not one time. But then the next match after I had like that was a year after that was in Nashville. Did a few matches there. Same thing. I just, man, of course I'm running at this point, so I don't have any problem.